In 1954, a rat in a Montreal laboratory pressed a metal lever nearly 2,000 times in a single hour to keep stimulating a cluster of neurons no bigger than a grape. And to this day, neuroscientists still cannot fully account for why that same structure, the nucleus accumbens, can make a human being abandon a goal they insist they still want. The lab belonged to McGill University. The researchers were James Olds and Peter Milner. They'd implanted an electrode meant for the rat's midbrain. It landed somewhere else entirely. The rat kept returning to the corner of the cage where the shock had happened, not fleeing it, chasing it. Olds and Milner rigged a lever. The rat learned in minutes. It pressed until its paws bled. It ignored food 6 inches away. Some animals in later replications died of exhaustion rather than stop. The electrode sat in a region we now call the Nucleus Accumbens, part of the ventral striatum, buried near the base of the forebrain, wired directly into the brain's dopamine circuitry. For decades, the story stayed simple. This was the pleasure center. Stimulate it and you feel good. The rat wasn't chasing anything strange, it was chasing bliss, the same way a person chases a second slice of cake or a slot machine payout. Reward comes in, dopamine fires, satisfaction follows, behavior repeats. Neat, closed case. Textbooks ran with it for 40 years, then came the facial reactions. In the 1990s, a University of Michigan researcher named Kent Berridge started measuring something almost nobody had bothered to isolate, not whether an animal worked for a reward, but whether it actually enjoyed it. He fed rats sucrose and filmed their mouths. Pleasure produces a specific, involuntary lip movement present even in newborn humans. Then he stripped the dopamine out of the circuit entirely. The rats stopped pressing the lever, they stopped seeking sugar. But when he placed the sucrose directly on their tongues, the lip movement still fired. They still liked it. They'd simply lost all interest in getting it. That result should not have been possible under the old model. If dopamine is pleasure, killing it should kill the pleasure. It didn't. It killed only the wanting. Berridge and his colleague Terry Robinson had accidentally split something the field had always treated as one thing into 2 separate systems running side by side, liking, which stayed intact, and wanting, which collapsed. The nucleus accumbens, it turned out, wasn't reporting how good something felt. It was assigning a kind of magnetic pull to the idea of getting it, independent of whether getting it would feel like anything at all. Here is where the case stops being about rats. The same circuit runs the anticipation loop in the human brain, and researchers studying dopamine timing, Wolfram Schultz's primate work among them, found the neurons don't fire at the reward. They fire at the prediction. A cue, a notification, a memory of a bar, a casino, an X. The accumbens tags that cue as urgently important, whether or not the underlying experience is even pleasant anymore. This is the mechanism now blamed for a specific, well-documented cruelty and addiction. People who report zero enjoyment from a substance, who describe hating what it's doing to them, who still feel pulled toward it with an intensity indistinguishable from hunger. The wanting system doesn't consult the liking system. It doesn't consult your stated goals either. Clinicians have watched this play out on the operating table. In a handful of documented deep brain stimulation cases, patients treated for Parkinson's with electrodes placed near the ventral striatum, new compulsions emerged that hadn't existed before. Pathological gambling, sudden hypersexuality, spending sprees the patients themselves called irrational even as they carried them out. Their frontal cortex, the part of the brain that holds long-term intentions, stayed fully intact. They knew what they wanted to want. It didn't matter. The go-to explanations keep arriving and keep falling short. Weak willpower can't explain a system with a documented anatomical override switch. Simple addiction framing can't explain why the same override shows up in ordinary procrastination, in doom scrolling, in reaching for a phone mid-sentence toward a goal you consciously value more. Blaming the prefrontal cortex assumes it's even in the loop, and the DBS cases suggest the accumbens can act without waiting for permission from anywhere upstream. What nobody has produced is a working model of why the brain runs 2 separate tracks for wanting and intending in the first place, or why one is built to override the other without so much as a warning. The lever is still there. Most people just don't notice they're pressing it.